Hello, my name's Keith Saha. I am a writer and director and an artist that's part of 20 Stories High Theatre Company in Liverpool. And I'm here today to talk to you about two plays that I've written over the past few years called Black and She's Leaving Home, which are part of the Methuen series of plays for young people. The first one, She's Leaving Home, came about a few years ago when it was the 50th anniversary of the Sgt. Pepper's album, and a group of artists, international artists, were each commissioned to write a piece or develop a piece of art around each song on the Sgt. Pepper's album track. And we were given She's Leaving Home, which we were really excited about. The song has an original story about it, which has been well documented. If you want to sort of Google that and find out about how that was about a young woman in the 60s and her backstory is well documented. We wanted to do something different, something that was relevant and spoke to young adult audiences about life, what life was like today in relation to home life. What is it like to leave home? What does leaving home mean? And we collaborated with Phelan McDermott from Improbable and Julia Samuels, who's our co-artistic director. And the process was that we worked with young people and young adults to really interrogate those questions and make those discoveries about what it was like for a young person. And I think it was 2017. What were those prospects and those chances of leaving home, and what context did young people leave home in? We went through a process called World Work, developed by Arnold Mindell, which is a sort of really fascinating process, which was led by Phelan, and it was explored lots of improvisational work about what these themes and subject matter meant for those young people we were working with. So at the end of that week, the story and the themes that started to appear were the fact that there were many young people that we were working with that felt like they actually couldn't leave home. Their education prospects or job prospects didn't allow that mobility that it might have happened for the previous generations. Also, lots of those young people might have been young carers, so there were responsibilities that were keeping them at home. That could either be looking after siblings or looking after parents. So the story started to emerge, and it became about a young woman called Kelsey. And we decided to set the play in a house here in Liverpool 8. And once we had those sort of two ideas, the play started to sort of take shape. And the play, it takes place in a house with a small audience in a living room over a number of years. We first meet Kelsey when she's doing her GCSEs, and sort of interrogate or sort of investigate how she's sort of looking after her siblings and is sort of the linchpin of the house while her mum is sort of holding down multiple jobs. And we sort of see her dreams and ambitions. And then we come back a few years later and we see that she's decided to stay at home. And I suppose as the play unfolds, the difficult truths that Kelsey finds it difficult to share with her mum around the themes of responsibility sort of start to play out and come out. And that is, so that's the play. And it's a one-person play, and we in terms of an act there. And we also had an amazing sort of puppetry element to it. So there's elements of magical realism in the play, which you will sort of read, but they can be open to interpretation if people sort of want to do that again. If you want to explore that in a education setting, I'd say just like free your creative skills to see what it is that you might come up with to respond to what those visual and puppetry elements might be. And also we work with an amazing actor Brodie Arthur, who played the character of Kelsey, who also came with a lot of her own experiences and ideas. So yeah, that's She's Leaving Home, and we toured it to living rooms in Liverpool, and if people were thinking about reimagining this play or staging it, I don't think you need to do it in a house. You could set up a house in a classroom or a studio theatre, but if you wanted to do that in a living room to get that level of authenticity of what that's like, then that's also an interesting thing to try out. The next play is called Black, and Black is it's a difficult play to read or to watch, and it was a difficult play to write. It is our central protagonist is a young woman called Nikki, who at the beginning of the play holds some very challenging racist opinions, and when a family moves in over the road, a guy called Precious, who's originally from Zimbabwe, he moves in with his family, and our character Nikki starts to sort of reassess where it is that she holds where her worldview comes from, and unsurprisingly, it's not too far away. It's basically about her relationship with her dad and her dad's sort of racism. And this play, I suppose, it came about from lots of different places, really, from lots of difficult places. As probably in 2015, somebody that we were working with was telling us about these sort of the racist attacks that they've been on the receiving end of here on the sort of outskirts of Merseyside, and it was something that I started to investigate with the young black people from 20 Stories High, and young people of colour, to sort of really investigate what levels of racism that they were on the receiving end of. This was sort of 5 years ago, before Brexit as well. Obviously things have got a lot worse, and we sort of started to explore how that felt and what that meant, and as part of that process we wanted to identify what the mindset of those young white people who are sort of implicit, if they're not directly part of that violence, if they're implicit in that mindset, what it's like for them. Now, that's something I have personal experience of in terms of being on the receiving end of racism as well, as a British Asian person in the 70s and the 80s. That sort of racism was really prevalent, and what really struck me is that throughout the 90s we thought, or lots of people thought, that things were improving, and it felt safer in some places. There was no overtly racist comedians on the television. Society felt more progressive, and then I suppose over the past 10 years and longer, it feels like we've been backsliding. So Black reflects things from both sides. As I said, Nikki is the protagonist in the play. She goes on a journey, and the character of Precious, when we toured this play, was played by an artist, a musician, a rapper, and a DJ and a producer called Chunky, who's absolutely amazing. And he came with his own sort of experiences and developed that character. And his story is told through music and through words and through poetry and through rap. The other thing I suppose to say about Black, it feels more relevant now than ever. And advice when sort of exploring this play or discussing this play or even trying to do extracts is to do it from a foundation of knowledge and authenticity and sensitivity. There's a note in the introduction of this play where I would say, don't perform this play just from Nikki's point of view. If you're a person of colour or a Black person in the audience and you are listening to an extract near the beginning of the play where Nikki's opinions are really sort of challenging, it's difficult. So I'd say the play would need to be done in its entirety. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be a safe space for people of colour and Black people in that room. But after saying all that, don't be scared of it. It's there to be explored, to be pulled, for people's opinions to be sort of challenged, and hopefully it will start to create a discussion where people can start to explore what that middle ground is. It feels like we're a really divided country at the moment, so hopefully, as part of those conversations and discussions, people can start to have a greater understanding of each other. What else to say is, I suppose as an organisation, 20 Stories High, we work with young people and young adults, and as with any art or theatre or plays that you're exploring, there are places, if you're affected by any of the issues or want to have conversations with anybody, there are places that you can go to. So they're all signposted here in the book, and we'll make sure as well on YouTube in the links below we'll put some other places in as well. That can be good resources. What else is that? I suppose whenever you are exploring plays or theatre within an education setting, I think one thing that I always like to say to young people is also see how that sparks your creativity and your imagination. Think of the stories that you might want to write, that you feel inspired by. Don't get put off by academic pressures or structure, or I think, we say here that everybody's got a story in their own way of telling it. So if you've got a story to write, just try making a play, put it on with your mates, find other people to do it and share it and keep on doing it. We need loads of new playwrights in this country. Within in our theatre world still feels it. A lot of the plays are written by the privileged, so there's lots of voices that need to be heard on our stages. So I say, as well as exploring all these great set of plays across the series from lots of different diverse artists, also have a think about writing your own as well. All right, thank you.